What's up, friends? My name's Georgie. I'm a breathwork and performance coach, helping people gain core confidence through the power of the breath. I am obsessed with all things women's health and biohacking and hope to use this podcast to have powerful conversations to help to empower you guys to harness the full potential of your bodies and minds. In today's powerful episode, I'll be having a good old natter to Portia Mead. So Portia is a yoga teacher and fellow Oxygen Advantage instructor with an absolute passion for helping kids and teens grow up with the tools for a happy and healthy future. Portia teaches breathwork and yoga classes for teens and tweens through teen oxygen awareness, helping to optimize respiratory health to combat anxiety, optimize sports performance, and improve mental well-being. With everything going on in the last 2 years and with the rise of social media in the past decade, we're so overstimulated these days, and it's the younger generation that have really grown up with that presence of Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok in their lives. The mental well-being of young people has never been so important as it is today. And this was a really, really powerful conversation about how we can provide young people with a toolkit to learn to self-regulate, to learn to switch themselves off and to actually be present with themselves rather than having to be glued to a screen the whole time. So this was a really, really important conversation, and I really, really hope you enjoy it. But before we jump in, just a little bit of housekeeping. Please do like, share, and subscribe to the Just Breathe podcast if you haven't already. It's how we build our breathwork community. The more people being inspired and empowered by the breath, the better. All right, let's dive right in to today's powerful, powerful conversation. I know you're going to really get some great takeaways from this one. This is episode 57 of Just Breathe with Portia Mead. Portia is in the house. Hello, how's it going?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, it's not bad at all. It's exciting to jump on. Me and Portia were just saying before pressing record how it's so nice to be able to capture a conversation, that so many of these conversations must happen between practitioners every single day, where you do kind of think, oh, I wish I recorded that. Like, what a nugget of wisdom, you know? And so this is why I love the podcast. And anytime someone says, oh, do you want to chat? I'll be like, yeah, well, why don't we record it and see if there's some wisdom in there?
Genuine conversations.
Yeah. It might just be, chatting sort of, monkeys, but like, there might be some gems in there as well. So who Absolutely. Knows? Yeah. But look, I know you're a practitioner of the breath, a very good practitioner of the breath, and you are particularly interested in the effect it has on the well-being of teenagers. But I'd love to kind of rewind and understand what got you into the world of breathwork. It's kind of exploded, this world.
I know, hasn't it? Yeah. I know, it's crazy because I actually got introduced to the Oxygen Advantage when I ran the London Marathon back in 2016. I was training for the London Marathon and I thought, okay, I need to be able to breathe more efficiently because I was finding that I was getting a stitch when I was out running. And so I was doing some research and then I found the Oxygen Advantage book and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I ordered the book and I started reading it. And that really did help me, and it got me through because my training had gone to pot. And they say, don't they, that I think I don't know what the percentage is now, but I think like 35% is training and the rest of it is mental and, everything else. So I kind of thought, okay, my training's gone to pot, but if I rely on my breath and I rely on my mental strength to get me through it, I'm going to be fine. And I did it in the time that I wanted. So
wow,
it's interesting. I put that book down afterwards, and sort of completely forgot about it. It got me through that process. And then that was it. Right. And then it wasn't until, obviously I've been working as a yoga teacher, haven't I, for the last sort of 6 years or so. And it wasn't until last year during lockdown that I started to do breathwork sessions with Steve, who you and I both know.
Yeah.
And I started to realize I was getting so much from these sessions. And he told me that he was doing the training in Oxygen Advantage. And I thought, okay, great. This is something that I feel like I need to just dive deeper into. Of course, it helped me. This is something I need to really just go dive into. So that was it. And so I did the training myself. And actually, I overtook Steve. He'll hate me saying that. And that was it. And that was it. I was flying with it. And then, of course, because of my passion for teens and well-being for the younger generation, and it literally then I thought, right, okay, I've been doing yoga with kids. I was like, right, I want to do breathwork with kids now. I want them to know this stuff. So that's how I've come to this place.
Wow, I love that. And I mean, congratulations on the London Marathon. I'm training for a triathlon at the moment, and just any training is just not easy. Like structured training, it is such a mental test as much as it is physical. But I think the breath has a lot to do with that. And actually, of course, we both know from Patrick's work and learning and teaching the work that the higher your CO2 tolerance, the more you can do with less effort. Mm-hmm. And that is something of huge benefit to me in my fitness journey of, well, if it feels less effortful, I feel more powerful. And I can do more with less. It doesn't have to be a big struggle. And suddenly what was my struggle becomes my power. And it's this kind of like thing. And I don't know if you experienced that with the marathon, having incorporated those kind of tools. Did the stitch go away? I know it helped me stitch it.
Yeah. I was much more able to sustain momentum when I was out running, and just consistency. And the stitch, as a result, because I was breathing efficiently, didn't start happening. It always started at a certain point on the run, and then once I started to do the exercises, that was it stopped. So I found it was crucial to my doing, because I'm not a runner. For me it was like a big thing to do this, so it was a real challenge on my body. Because doing yoga as well, I always say, yoga complements every other fitness, whereas other sports don't complement yoga. So my yoga was going downhill fast as I was doing these miles, so I was really starting to feel the impact on my whole body. So if it wasn't for the breath work, I don't know whether I would have actually done it, to be honest.
Wow. I mean, how important was nasal breathing on that journey, which is the simplest kind of switch, but often very disregarded, and a lot of people will shy away from it. If you say try nasal breathing just day to day, they go, okay, sure. But try nasal breathing running, and people go, I'll never be able to do that. So how important was it for you?
Yeah, it was definitely, it really helped with me. Like I said, to keep the momentum up and to not get out of breath, to not have that breathlessness, it definitely was important for me. But it is hard to make that switch, isn't it? And still now, where I live in Malvern, it's very hilly. And still now, when I'm walking the dog uphill, I still have that need to want to gasp in air. Even though I'm doing this stuff, I still have that kind of, I want to draw in loads of breath into my lungs. So it's an interesting way of having to adjust and to really recognize how you breathe, and it just does make you so much more self-aware, doesn't it, as a result, which is, I guess, what then took me down the route of, okay, kids need to learn this stuff because it will help with their self-awareness.
Yeah, so I mean, that perfectly segues into, because I really want to hear more about the teens. I mean, what kind of response were you getting from them, and kind of how old are we talking teens in terms of the yoga and just moving in that sort of more conscious, fluid way, and I guess removing the stigma from yoga that it's woo-woo, that it's hippie, anything like that. More just know this is a fantastic tool for body awareness, and that can stem, especially for teenage boys as well, that are going through considerable changes in their body. If you have body awareness, that respect and that core confidence of your own body can have an enormous impact on when you start menstruating, in terms of your kind of sexual activity, when you start getting into that, and how you honor your body. Does that make sense in a way? I think it has a huge impact. Yeah. What are you getting from them?
I find it quite interesting, actually, because with yoga, I think kids are much more inclined to, they receive it better. They're like, oh, I know yoga, and they sit there with their hands in Zen and go, like they see on TV. But as soon as I say to them, okay, I'm going to teach you how to breathe, they're like, I know how to breathe. I do it every day. My daughter's a typical example of that. I'm like, I'm a trained breath coach. She's like, what is, surely you just breathe in and out through the nose. What are you on about? So when it comes to breath work, there's definitely that kind of, it's a bit over their head. But I think it's becoming much more talked about now, isn't it? Doing breathing exercises, but even with adults that I teach, they're kind of like, wow, really, that makes that much difference. Yes, it really does.
Yeah, and I'm lucky that this is my full-time thing now, in that I didn't, it was an accident, but that so many people ended up being like, no, I've read James Nestor's Breath with many people, or I've read the Oxygen Advantage, and I really want to understand how this can shift. And actually, when you really step back and remove any ego out of it, of that I've been breathing my whole life thing, it's the most important biological function we have. You can't eat all the time, you can't drink all the time, you can't sleep all the time, you're breathing all the time. And so it actually affects everything.
It really does.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but like, with this sort of social media age, a lot of teenagers are growing up in, a lot of them we're seeing so much poor posture, looking at the phone, forward head posture, compressing the vagus nerve, terrible control, getting them stuck in an adrenalized state because we're being constantly stimulated, right? I don't think FOMO was a thing when I was 10 or going into my teenage years, whereas now, if you're not constantly up to date with what everyone else is doing, you're missing out. And so a great way to regulate that, of course, is the breath, to detach, to slow down. And, I suppose, are you teaching these teenagers to apply the principles they learn on the mat in their lives? Is that
yeah, that's basically it. So that's what I say to any parents that come to me. I mean, going back to your question, I teach kids from all age. Like on a Wednesday, my youngest group is 1. Whoa. I teach 1-year-olds, and we just do like the normal kind of like, let's pretend we're blowing out a candle, that sort of, breathing exercises. And then it goes all the way up until adults on a Wednesday, which is quite a bizarre day. It's sort of like a transition of ages. But so breath work, I think, like you said, will benefit anyone. And what I always say to people is, all I'm giving teens or that age group, really sort of, I suppose, 12 plus, is the tools to learn to self-manage, to get themselves through difficult situations, to enhance their own physical well-being, to be able to sleep better, to relax easier, just everything really. I'm teaching them. I just say, I'm the guide, I'm teaching them the tools in order to be able to do it themselves. And that's kind of what I just don't feel that they're getting from a lot of different things in their life. Like you say, they're on their phones, they're in their heads, they're in their school day, they've got expectation, they've got pressure, they've got their parents in another ear, they've got so much going on. And so it takes for them to, how can they sit back and go, okay, who am I? And I think it takes the breath work, doesn't it? It takes that sitting still, connecting with your breath, noticing your body. How does my body feel? How does my breath feel? Okay, why does it feel this way? And it sort of spins on from there, doesn't it? And then before you know it, over a period of time, you've learned to check in with yourself and recognize yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it really, really poses the question that, do we want to produce a generation of anxious adults that cannot bear to sit with their own thoughts? Because I know a few of those adults who are going through beautiful journeys now where they can through breath work. But the way the school system is designed, and I think it was maybe Patrick even that said this, is that school teaches you how to think, but no one's there to teach you how to stop thinking.
Yeah, that's
how to stop doing, and all this, it's so of capitalism, isn't it? More, doing. Whereas actually, who's there to tell them that sometimes less is more? Sometimes you don't have to be constantly doing, and that actually you're enough whether you pass that exam or not. And actually that, this is important, but it's not worth sacrificing your mental health for. There's so many things. I mean, are you baffled that this stuff isn't in schools?
Oh God, I wrote a book many years ago for kids, a mindfulness diary for primary school age children. And I did everything I could to try and get it into schools. And some did use it, which was really good. But yeah, I mean, I would love, my ideal world is children getting into school every day and the teacher saying, right, okay, what did you notice this morning? How do you feel today? How does your body feel? What, let's just quickly start with a breathing exercise. I think it would take 15 minutes, that's all, just to let them check in and then just go on with the day. But instead, they just don't see that as a priority, which I find really frustrating, because my daughter comes home from school and she'll tell me things that she's learned at school that I think are totally unnecessary and if anything, kind of confusing for her to understand, especially around sexuality. But yet she doesn't know how to deal with anxiety or who she is or what she wants. And I find that really hard as a parent to sort of take that on board, really.
Yeah, it's really difficult because it's something that I suppose before even my journey that, I really hope I get the opportunity to be a mother one day myself as well. And you do think like, gosh, how on earth, something that has always been, well, that's what you just do. You go to school and you learn and then that's it. And it's like, yeah, but what are they learning and how important is it? Because academia is wonderful, but you can know all the knowledge in the world, but if you're chronically depressed and actually not getting anything out of your day, life, whatever, is it really worth it? Is it worth anything? Really?
Especially with teen suicide numbers going up, it's alarming. That's the other thing, is that it's evident out there that the kids are struggling, and I'm a kids counsellor as well. And one of the things that I hear a lot is the expectation. They feel under pressure about their workload from their school, from their family. They feel like, and they literally do not know who they are. They've lost their identity. I'll say to them, what makes you happy? I don't know, they can't answer. And it's like, why can't you answer this? You don't know what makes you happy. How are you going to know what to do when you need to make yourself feel good? When you need to feel like, for me, I was, like you said, I was one of those people that had the really busy mind. And it wasn't until I learned to slow down and stop, and I started just by looking out the window and setting myself a timer for 5 minutes, just to say, okay, what can I see outside in 5 minutes? And that made me then realize I actually love the outside world. I didn't really realize I even loved being outdoors. So I think, it's only in those moments of sort of stillness, like you said, that we can see, this is me, this is what I like. Okay, so I'm going to do more of that because I get a good feeling from that. So I want to go and do more of that thing that makes me feel good. And that's what they need to know, because they don't know what they want.
Wow. How much of the phone, social media, technology do you think is responsible for this? Because I'm thinking to when I was a teenager, I didn't have a phone until I was about 15. Facebook had just started. I didn't have Facebook until I was maybe 17, 18. It wasn't a thing. Instagram, I don't know, 90, it wasn't a thing. And like, even now, things that bring me the most joy are, a treat for me is on a Friday, or today, I'll take myself to a coffee shop and choose a cake. And I'll sit there with a book for half an hour and look out, just watch the world. And to me, that is the most, I get so excited. I spend the whole week excited about it. And, like saying it sounds quite sad, but actually you realize that with teenagers, you're like, actually, I think that was probably evoked from some memory of when I was little, where we went to a cafe with like my nanny or something or whatever. And, it's a lovely memory, or big outdoor walks, and just standing or feet on the ground or putting some music on and dancing and being silly, all those things that like, and here's the thing, I just got that download of like, when we were the teens putting on music and dancing, some teens now are watching videos of other people putting music on and dancing.
Yeah, I've said that same statement to my kids pretty much. They were watching, I don't know, something on TV, on YouTube. It was a family living their day-to-day life on YouTube, but they were doing it a lot. And I said to them, you're both sat here watching other people live their life instead of living your own life. Do you get that? Like, they were so consumed into this program watching these, and I just couldn't get my head around it. I thought, why are you not living your life and doing something for you? But that's exactly what it's become. It's sort of, just people sat there watching these screens to get their entertainment, to get their feel good of happiness and all of that raw. And then because they're reliant on that, if it's just a soul destroying, who are you? Because you're watching them, you're living through them, you're not living through you. So it's hard. I mean, I'm sort of an advocate for TikTok in a way, depending on how you use it. But I do think that in a way has brought kids back to doing stuff that's quite nice. Like you say, like dancing, making videos. So then they've got to be self-aware of their body and doing something and creative in putting it together. So I kind of like TikTok, but I can see why lots of people are against it as well.
Sure. But, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So like, why not bring it into the 21st century where it's kind of like, okay, TikTok's not going away, social media is not going away. Rather than watching a video, why don't you get together with some friends and make an awesome video?
Yeah, exactly.
And have a great time doing it, but then have that balance where you put the phone down and actually listen, because the answers aren't in the phone, they're in here, and that it's so funny how simple it is that even I have adults asking me, but what is it? How do I how do I, and I said, I can't, you know, I can hold space for you and give you the tools, and I promise you that you will figure it out on your own.
Yeah, well, I always liken it to yoga. It's about finding balance, isn't it? Like you said, with everything, it's about doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of something else, and that will make everything come together. But it's not all or one thing. It's making sure that you're doing a bit of everything. You know, I love movement, I love breath work, I love stillness, I love doing a powerful workout as well. You know, I like to push myself physically and mentally. I also like to sit and read a book. I think it's you've got to kind of find all those different elements of things that are your feel good things, bring them all in together, and know that you're going to have the rubbish things as well, because that's life, and just bring that in as well, but know that you've got to mix it up with the good stuff. And that's what kids need to learn. They need to learn that, okay, I'm going to use a little bit of social media, then I'm going to go off and do this for myself, then I need to do my homework because that's part of my life, and then I need to go and do this for my, you know, it's kind of like, how can they start introducing these different things in that will make them feel good about who they are?
Absolutely, yeah. And, you know, do you think it has anything to do with actually a particular perspective and outlook on what happiness actually means these days to teenagers, like what that word means? And I had an amazing therapist that really helped me on my journey in my early 20s. And, you know, we had a long conversation about this, and I swapped the word happiness with contentment, because happiness was such a huge expectation on myself, to be like all the positive quotes and the positive quote t-shirts all the time. And actually inside, I just wanted someone to say to me, are you okay?
Yeah.
Because actually, and I would have said, I'm really happy. Actually, really, you know, I should have been like, no, I'm not really okay, actually, you know, I'm not. But that was deemed so bad to not be okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think what you're doing is so important, because it sounds like you are inviting teenagers not to dismiss the discomfort, especially in the last 2 years, but to get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I always say to them. Like I say, that I'm giving them tools to manage. It's not about, I'm not going to fix them. I'm not a therapist. You know, it's all about, I'm just helping them manage how they feel. And I give them the opportunity to open up and talk as well. And we reflect on things, but it's more about them learning what works for them. We do a little bit of meditation, we go into relaxation, we'll talk through kind of self-love and things like that as well. And it's all those things, isn't it? It's all like just recognizing, okay, this is me. This is how I feel. I can use this breathing technique to make me feel more relaxed and chilled when I'm anxious. I can use this one to make me feel more energized if I'm feeling lethargic and I want to energize myself. Or I can, if I've got a breathing respiratory problem, then I can use this one to enhance myself physically as well. So I think that's the other part of it. It's not just all about the sort of mental side of it. It's also about the physical, isn't it? The Oxygen Advantage does do a lot in terms of helping somebody with their endurance and all of that as well. So I just feel like a breath work as a whole is just so important for a well-rounded, healthy teenager.
I agree. And, you know, the word that's coming to me is awareness. Awareness, what does that word mean to you in terms of, like, in my journey coaching people, I've really found that you can know all the tools, all the yoga sequences on the planet, but if you don't have self-awareness, then how on earth do you know when to use which tool and why you're using it, other than that you saw it on Instagram yesterday?
Well, I think when you were saying this a moment ago about the listening to things about being happy, I've done that. You know, I've been down and I've been like, okay, I'm going to listen to a podcast about how to be happy, and then I'm going to watch something on YouTube about how to be happy. And it's like, how can you make somebody happy by just watching something or listening to it? It was like, I'm not feeling happy. It's not working for me. And it's like, that's the self-awareness. It's going, okay, sit down with yourself for a moment. Why are you feeling this way? What is it that you would like to change? What do you need to change in order to feel better? You know, it's like, that's the self-awareness, isn't it? Where am I holding this tension in my body? Am I tight in my shoulders? Am I tight in my neck? That's the self-awareness. How am I breathing? Am I breathing just into my chest? Am I breathing down into my, you know, it's all those things with me are the self-awareness. What impact is this having? How am I eating? How am I treating myself? What am I doing? What am I thinking? That for me is self-awareness. It's that whole kind of, because otherwise you start these little sabotaging things that you're doing, or you're not breathing properly, or you're doing something that is going to have a knock-on effect for the next negative impact, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, there's something as well in terms of attention span and focus that is an enormous topic. I listened to a great podcast by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee with Feel Better, Live More the other day, and it was all about how we have been robbed of our focus. You know, and do you find that a lot with teenagers in terms of their attention span and any sort of improvement there with kind of your work and everything else, and in even like their ability to engage in a conversation and hold their attention for a period of time without kind of, you know, looking at, for anyone listening to the audio, I'm looking at my phone, but you know, to actually just hold your attention on one thing for a prolonged period of time is something I have to watch myself, is something we've all sort of got a little bit worse at in the modern Western world. And I think breath work is the biggest tool for that. And I really think increasing your attention span is increasing your quality of life. But I'm interested on your take on it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, actually, when you said that. I mean, I find that a lot of the kids come into the room with me and they're fidgety and they can't sit still. And then we start doing the breath work and they just instantly, I watch their body language change. They instantly start to relax and chill out. And when you're in a breathing exercise, you don't know how long you're in it, do you? Because you're so busy following along with the counting and everything else, or whatever you're doing in the breathing exercise, that they're so in it. They're really good. They really listen. And I've not had really anyone yet that I've taught that has kind of just ignored me. They've all done what they can, even if they struggle with it. I've seen them, you know, even if they're quite young and they're struggling to follow me slightly, but they're still engaged in what I'm doing. So I find and then, like you say, as soon as you start to, it's like a muscle memory, isn't it? As soon as you start to strengthen up that being able to concentrate for that time with me, then they can start to bring that into their other day-to-day routines. But I do often say to them, did you, because I ask them to journal as well between like appointments, did you journal? Did you practice your breathing? They're like, no, maybe not. So I don't know if they're quite so dedicated when they go home. But definitely with me, they come in, they switch on, and they are totally 100% there, and I love it. It's really good.
It's incredible. Such freaking important work. But I mean, the last question I have for you that I'm really interested to pick your brains on from a teenage perspective is the word process. Mm-hmm. And journey. Like, you know, journey has a lot of connotations to it, so maybe I'll use the word process. But, you know, we live in a world right now where you can click a button and have whatever you want delivered to your door. Mm-hmm. Be it a meal, be it you know, I had a huge rug delivered in 2 days time that I just flicked on Amazon, you know, a few days ago. And like, you know, instant, you can have groceries within, you know, hours to your door. You can have a doctor's appointment online. Everything is so accessible, contactless payments, etc. We don't have to wait for anything anymore.
That's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I just wonder if that has been transposed into the world of health and well-being, that I'll go to 2 yoga classes and, you know, I'll do a handstand, which isn't the point of yoga at all, of course. But, you know, things like that where people will say, great, so I've learned it, like I should be fixed by now, right? And it's actually that, no, honey, you have to, like, you know, it's not real, the hand thing, you know, it doesn't actually work like that. You have to actually do the work and go on have the process. And sometimes that process involves accepting, especially for teenagers, that there are days that are incredibly uncomfortable, and that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one that I always say is it's our expectations, isn't it? I'm always on about expectations, because it's what we expect. We expect to have things tomorrow. We expect to do things, well, either well or badly. We have expectations from other people. We just, everything is expectation. So I will always say to them, just be present, you know, come into this moment. How do you feel? How do you want to feel? What do you want more of in your life? That's all you can work towards. You're going to have all the other stuff coming at you, the bad stuff, the negative stuff, the pressures, the expectations, but you can just lock yourself. I always get them to visualize themselves in a little bubble. I'm like, you're in your bubble. what do you want in your bubble? What do you need? How can you move forward? What things make you feel good? What can we do to make you feel good without having that kind of hit of needing to buy something or do something drastic? Because obviously that's another thing, isn't it? In the teen world, is the self-harming, is the the cries for help. So they're doing these things to try and get a reaction. So I'm like, okay, if you're going to want to do that sort of thing, we need to find a healthy alternative. So what can we do? What can we put in that bubble that's a go-to, a breathing exercise, the wrist around the band that you can flick, all the little tools that you can do that are kind of bring me into this moment. This is how I need to feel. This is what I want to feel, rather than chasing everything else that happens. Like you say, I mean, social media is kind of the worst for that in some ways, because you go online, I mean, even I do it, and I'll see something and I'm like, why have they got that life and I haven't? Like, why am I not?
Why are they on the beach in Bali?
Why am I living on a yacht? What happened to my life? And then it's like, okay, let's just bring it back, Portia. Come back. Just breathe.
So, but that person on that yacht or in Bali has their own set of troubles too.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're probably doing exactly the same. They're looking on social media and going, just breathe, bring it back. So we're all, and I think that's one thing that we should all be saying to kids and reassuring them, that life isn't about all these amazing experiences and reaching these goals. It's about just being. We've all got to learn to just be a bit more,
to be and accept, and just allow we call them teenagers, but really they're kids, to be kids. I only feel like I'm entering the world of adulthood now, and I'm 26. Really, what are we all? Just grown-up children, really, that wear bigger clothes. Like there's really not that much difference. But it's just allowing them, and I wonder if there's part of it, the responsibility on the parents, on the schools, to just be kids for a second.
There's definitely less playfulness than when I was a child. I've watched my kids and I mess around with them because I think it's really important to be playful with them. But I see their friends and obviously I teach kids as well, and they really struggle. And I'm like, come on, let's do something silly. Let's shake our arms and stick out our tongue. Let's do lion breath, and all this. They're just like looking at me like, oh my God. And one little girl, she said to me, she went, I'm not going to do that because it's really embarrassing. She must have been about 6.
Oh my God.
Like, no, get embarrassed, move.
Get embarrassed.
Let's just do something stupid. Don't go all sick. And I think that, like you say, that comes from seeing mum and dad and school people telling you, you mustn't do that. It's not good. You'll look stupid. Don't do stupid behavior. But no, let them have fun and enjoy themselves and dance stupid, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I hope anyone who is, taking notes from this podcast today, please write down rule number 1, make a fool of yourself at least once a day. It's incredibly important. Like I do.
All ages.
Oh my gosh. Yes. It's so important. Because if you are afraid to make a fool of yourself, then you are embarrassable. Whereas we want to be unembarrassable, right? We want to be unknockable, which makes us indestructible. Because if you cannot be embarrassed, then you lose the ability to be bullied. And that's a big statement, but in some ways, and I'm not, disregarding bullying. It's a horrible thing and something, but I wonder if people were more self-aware, would they bully other people in the first place? Because hurt people, Yeah,
that's another thing I'm always telling my children. Whenever they come home, so and so was mean to me today, I'm like, I bet they've got something going on at home and they're just trying to, that's them releasing their anger. Unfortunately, they don't know how to deal with it themselves, so they're just putting it onto you. And then the next day I'll say, so how was school? Oh yeah, they forget, he apologized and we're friends again. I'm like, exactly, because they've got over their stuff. So it's interesting, isn't it, when you bring kids up that way, knowing that, okay, that's why someone's doing that, then they don't have that reactive kind of, okay, well, I'm going to retaliate and be angry back to you. They accept. Instead, they just listen, they accept, and they go, okay, I know, like you just said, bullying is a hard thing and you shouldn't just put up with bullying, but there is an element of being able to say, why are they doing this to me? What's going on with them, rather than it just being about you all the time.
Yeah, but also, are they worthy of my reaction? Most likely no. And if you don't give them a reaction, instead, actually, someone, for example, like someone at school, there was always someone telling me how skinny I was. I was such a natural twig, like lanky twig. I think one day I turned around and said, thank you. Wow. I like my body, but, thank you for your opinion, and I hope you have a great day. And
that's the best response. I said that to my son the other day. He had someone calling him an emo. I didn't even know what an emo was. So I'm like, just turn around and go, yes, I am.
Yeah, just like, absolutely.
Embrace the emo. Like, just don't care. Like, he's saying it because of some reason. So what? You're not an emo. You're fine. You love yourself. Go with it. Just go, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I think I just go, what? I'm enlightened, majestic, and out of the ordinary. Wow, that's a big compliment. Emo. Okay, sure. You know, and just walk away.
Yeah, that's what he needs to do, and he has sorted it out now since. But there's definitely got to be able to take that playfulness and that kind of jokey, and just not let stuff, just like I said, in our bubbles, let stuff just bump off of us rather than absorb it.
Well, yeah, I mean, in my opinion, what is true freedom for any age is freedom from your external environment and circumstances. Because if you have a core confidence that you can take my material objects away, you can take my clothes away, you can take my anything away, but you cannot take my mindset.
Yeah.
Because I know that whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. If I lose those friends, no problems. I'll get new friends. If I'll get new things. It doesn't matter. Like, because I am so secure in myself. And those are the less, teach math, teach English, teach science, whatever. Like, learn to speak another language. But for God's sake, learn confidence within yourself,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah. To finish out, what one piece of advice would you give to any parent listening right now that's worried about their teenager?
I mean, there's loads of good resources online, isn't there? So if someone's struggling and they want to sort of try and get their kids to engage, then obviously there is stuff online. It's harder, I think, to try and, as a parent myself, it is hard to go, here, watch this video. They tend to go, if you're giving it to me and you're my parent, then it's not going to be any good. So it is difficult, I appreciate. So, finding somebody who can coach them or, mentor it. Obviously, I do stuff online as well, you do. So I think anything where they can just go to someone and they can talk and they can be themselves and they can express how they feel and they can learn how to breathe properly, how to sit with themselves, how to self-manage would be really useful and helpful. But there is amazing books. There's great things online. There is loads of different free resources as well, but depending on the situation, how serious it is, but anything that can engage with themselves is going to help.
Yeah, 100%. And, where can people find you if they have listened to this, feel really inspired, be it, if you're a teenager yourself, or if you are a friend of one who knows someone is struggling, or a parent, how can people get in touch with you and work? You've got a few things going on, yoga, breath work, one-to-one, loads of stuff, right? Where can they go?
So I'm obviously based in Malvern, so I do one-to-ones here in Malvern as well as online. I am under the name Teen OA, which is Teen Oxygen Awareness. So you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook. The website, unfortunately, isn't live yet, the modern world.
Getting there.
But will be soon. So yeah, everything's Teen OA though. So just look out for Teen Oxygen Awareness.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Okay, thank you so much, Portia, for coming and speaking. That was a powerful conversation, and
that was good.
The work is so important. It's so important.
Thank you so much for having me.